Hi, my name is Wesley Diggs. This is my first semester in the Technology Integration program at Lipscomb, and it is my second semester in my MAD program at Lipscomb, and I'm trying to learn a lot as much as possible this year while I'm substituting and tutoring privately. And so I don't have a regular classroom, so forgive me for not having an audience. And thank you instead for being my audience and watching my video. My PBL is on banned books. I want students to think critically on rights and morality that they are given in the First Amendment, and as Christians, how they want to approach literature and different forms of media. I just did another recording of this previous, and it ran about 18 minutes long, so I'm trying to shorten up my video for this round, so forgive me if I leave anything out. Let's go. How did I craft my question for my PBL? I had to think about this for a little bit because I couldn't come up with one single question. As I explored the idea of banned books, I went to many different websites and many different areas that were very heavily weighted and biased and against banning books and against restricting literature content in libraries and etc. And you know, this goes from the ALA.org, the American Library Association, to the main source that I collaborated with on the web for PBL presentations on banned books, which I have linked at the end of this haiku deck that I attached. Everything is really loaded, and I want students to think critically about this because there's two ways to approach censorship in literature. One is that you know, it's somebody else pulling the wool over your eyes, as it often is in communist countries, and two, that there's some things that are obscene and indecent, and I try to get students to think critically on three different levels: what is right for the state to allow, what is right for their school to allow, and what is right for a family to allow. You know, there's three different levels of influence where restriction can come on individuals, and where should those come? Where should they enter in? So I start students by trying to think about the different ways that books have been banned, and I have basically three leading questions for my PBL. You know, do you know any banned books? And students may not know that they know banned books, but many books that they've read have been banned. Charlotte's Web, Huck Finn. I read Slaughterhouse-Five in high school. Animal Farm. There's so many things that have been pushed back and banned by different societies, different nations, different schools. And I want people to think about them critically. I mean, in our day in America, we have everything from people burning Harry Potter books to burning copies of the Bible that are not written in the King James Version. So I want people to think critically about why banning should happen, and not to immediately demonize banning like the American Library Association does on ALA.org, where it glorifies Banned Books Week and makes reading banned books sexy. So I want students to think about it in two different ways. There's the way in which their society presents it, and the way in which they and their morality present it. And it's really a balance between the two. The First Amendment versus Christian freedom and responsibility. How do I plan my assessment for this lesson? It's a very relativistic lesson. I want students to really reflect on everything. And that's why most of this is writing oriented and debate oriented. If you look at it, there's journaling, where I want students to think, my first journal entry would be, should there be things 10-year-olds should not read about or see? You don't want a 10-year-old to see a bloody movie. And then my next question, are there things 15-year-olds should not read about or see? Again, you think about horror movies. I had nightmares from watching Jurassic Park until I was probably 22, but that's just me. And then a third question would be, for 18-year-olds. And, at 18, adults in America can buy pornography. So where should censorship versus morality be met in our society? And I want students to think about it, journal about it. And ultimately, this will lead to a final mock debate wherein we'll bring other classes in from the school and we'll debate different viewpoints. And I think I'll have a pretty good span of what students could debate on, especially if my target audience, which would be in a private Christian school, where, Lord willing, I'll get to teach one day, will be able to bring their morality to bear on to society's freedoms, and how those freedoms then entail with them responsibilities. And on my handout there's a really good quote from Voltaire down at the bottom right, how you should allow others to think freely and also do it yourself. So how did I map my problem? I planned with the end in mind, and this is how I came about to focusing on journaling for my writing and focusing on the debate. I really want students to think critically and to be able to know their rights and also know their responsibilities. This might be the most redundant part of my presentation, and so I'm going to keep it short because the project should reflect how I want to drive the students to think independently, but how I also want them to realize that there is value in restriction and value in guarding people, especially those who you're responsible for. And ultimately, I'm going to try to point students to valuing the authority of their family, before the authority of the school, before the authority of the government, and keep things small, keep things tight, because from family to family, things will be different. A Muslim family will think differently than a Christian family, or a non-Christian family, an atheistic family, will think differently from either of the two. And so how do we form a society in harmony with these different viewpoints for families? Managing my assessment and managing my use of class time really depends on how I maximize accountability for students. And journaling and using kidblog.com is one of the big, the high points for this, because that's how, similar to how we use Blackboard, Kidblog, students write their opinions, and then other students can come in and comment. And these can be restricted to classes, these can be restricted to schools, and I can really limit who can come on and read what the students write. So there's a level of protection, and then there's also a level of accountability where students have to write, they have to express their feelings. But I do also want to include Padlet.com, which is basically like a big corkboard where students put up their ideas, and they can also see and read what other students think. And if they can't come up with their own ideas, read first what others have done. and then kind of mishmash their own ideals. That's, cheating in some instances, but, when you read through comments on Blackboard, you're going to also formulate and strengthen and be able to express your own opinions as you read others. And so hopefully that's one way I'll bring in accountability and participation. Engagement is going to be the way that I encourage students to read. Ultimately, this project will lead them to read a banned book or something like that, and or maybe not. I'm certainly not going to put something that my school would prohibit into the hands of a student, but have them consider it. Have them consider the value of the protection that their parents put over them. And I want to give props to Kelly Gallagher, another class that I'm reading right now, taking right now, Balanced Literacy under Jean Fain. We go through the Gallagher book, Deeper Reading, and he gives basically 5 steps for comprehension. Focusing the students, the first draft readings, which are for content, collaboration with other students and discussion, then a second draft reading of things, which is more for analysis, where you go back and you reread, the ALA website, or for what their ultimate intent is. And then a reflective response, which is the debate, which is the persuasive writing project that I have students go for. Overall, I try to get students to think internally, which is what the language arts really are about, driving students to do. And I've got several different sites that I have. I have Kid Blog, I've got Padlet, Google Drive can be used for for uploading their projects and collaborating with each other. Poplet for mind mapping, which is again a great resource for students, and then Sonic Pics for part of their presentations. You can see on my resources page how I've got all these different areas brought together, my different things that I look at to drive mine. I've got ala.org, I've got another blog where a teacher straightforwardly does a PBL on banned books, and then I have the Kelly Gallagher book, which you should look at. It's great. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. Ultimately, through my PBL, I want students to think for themselves. I want them, instead of having censorship pressed upon them, I want them to self-censor, to have self-discipline and self-control when they approach things, because that's ultimately how the Spirit works in our lives. The Spirit's not going to shut out the different hate speech or pornography or whatever from our lives. It's not going to destroy it. It's going to be there, but it's going to give us the discipline to resist. And Lord willing, through my PBL, I'll be able to encourage students to do the same. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.